Welcome to Between Two Trains, a bi-monthly business podcast that talks with entrepreneurs in the North DeKalb area. Today, your hosts are Van Pappas and Tom Adam. And now, Between Two Trains.
All right, thank you, Theo, for that great intro. We are here today in the plush studios of the Chamblee Chamber of Commerce for another episode of Between Two Trains. Once again, my co-host Tom Abbott is here with me. Tom, how are you today?
Good to see you, Van. Doing great.
So today is April Fool's Day, April 1st. You going to play any April Fool's jokes on your loved ones?
I was really excited. I just read an article. They're putting a 65-story building in downtown Chamblee. That
Get
is
out.
Awesome.
65-story building? That's an April Fool's joke, right?
That's an April Fool's joke, all right.
All right, so today we have a great guest that we're going to bring on in a little bit, Robert Pond from Premier Commercial Real Estate. We'll talk with him about his business and things going on in the area. But as always, our first segment is Entrepreneur Talk, where we are going to chat about some topics. Today, we're going to talk about real estate and mortgage rates. And Tom, you're in the real estate business, so, you know, what's going on? Are we getting too hot here with all the real estate going on? It seems like prices are going up, and I understand rates have started ticking up.
Well, the thing with prices going up is it's just kind of the law of supply and demand. I mean, we just don't have inventory. I literally...
Why is that? Are they not building?
They're building, but they're not building fast enough, or they're only building in certain areas. Like you might be building single-family homes out in the suburbs, but if I'm a buyer and I want to buy a brand-new condo, I've got very limited choices to be able to pick from in purchasing something like that. So a lot of it is limited inventory. I've got a case in point, buyer. We were supposed to look at a townhouse yesterday and one today, and both of them went under contract before we could get in to see them. So it's just this limited inventory. So I don't think that I don't foresee us being in a bubble like we were last time. I think.
So you don't, I mean, we're not repeating 2007, 2008.
No, not by any means. I mean, your buyers now have to be qualified. I mean, they've got to prove their income. It's not like back pre-market crash, fog a mirror, we'll give you a loan kind of thing. I mean, all you had to do is say, hey, I make $150,000. They said, okay, fine, we'll give you a loan. It's not like that now.
It seems like, though, that builders aren't building the lower-end housing. They're either building multifamily, apartments, or they're building these $700,000-$800,000 homes. So what is someone, do you get a lot of people who are looking for starter homes and say, hey, I just can't afford a $700,000 home?
Well, yeah, that is a challenge. Like if you're a new couple and you want a starter home, I mean, I was looking the other day and I saw a new home development all the way out by Brazelton, which is not close to Atlanta by any means. You're out there a ways, and they were starting at $300,000 for a starter home. So it's just what the builders are building now. So it makes it very difficult for young couples sometimes.
So what's the alternative? They have to, if they can't afford that, they just have to continue to rent?
Either rent or maybe save up more money for a down payment. There's a lot of options out there with different mortgage programs. I'm not a mortgage lender, but there are certainly a lot of opportunities to be able to get different help with your mortgage, different down payment programs. You might have a family member who could gift you a down payment, maybe grandma and grandpa or aunt and uncle or somebody has, got some money, they could help you out. So there are ways to help those people get into those homes. There's certainly some opportunities we can do that.
Well, that brings up an interesting topic. When I sit down with a financial planning client and we have the conversation about owning a home, it usually comes up, they ask me, what is better, to rent or to own? Do you ever get clients that are, ask you, should they be renting?
I get all the time, and it's really a very personal situation. And I tell most people, if like say if you're younger and you're looking to buy something, I always ask people, well, it depends on your job. Okay, if you're in a type of industry where you think, wow, in 2 years I could suddenly that great job will be San Francisco or Chicago or Houston or Austin or wherever it might be. If you purchase something now, there's a good chance that you may see very little return on your investment or might even lose a little bit of money by the time you pay marketing fees. So I think a lot of it has to do with your stability of your job and where you're going to be as to whether you should rent or own. There are some people I've talked to that they just want somebody to change light bulbs. They don't want to do any of that kind of stuff, and they belong in a rental.
No yard, when they're not interested in yard work.
They belong in a rental, and that's where they should be. But then you have other people that are like, that make the smart decision, as you can say, from the financial planning side. They're like, I am tired of throwing this money away and have nothing to show for it.
Yeah. So. Well, it seems like, though, the other part of that equation is if I'm not going to own and I'm going to go rent, all the things you said are accurate, but what about as it just seems like rent rates are going through the roof, lately, you can't, the same 3-bedroom apartment, from 5 years ago is a third more. Are we getting to a point where rent rates are going to be so much that people can't even afford to rent?
Well, either that or it will make it that much more attractive for someone to buy, because you can actually own a home and it might cost you less per month to own a home than it does to rent.
Gotcha. Well, it's an interesting topic. I know we can probably talk about it for hours and hours. And obviously with rates ticking up, it's probably a good time to look, if you are planning on buying, to go out and see if you do qualify for a loan and be able to go out and get that loan before the rates go really high. People forget that there was a period of time in our country where rates were double digits. People don't remember that in the 80s, there were 13, 14, 15% interest rates. How people bought houses in the 80s, I don't know.
Well, the thing to keep in mind about that is houses weren't $300,000 and $400,000 back then. They might have been $40,000, $50,000, but even still, a $50,000 house with 14, 15, 16% interest was a pretty hefty thing to pay.
Right.
So.
All right, well, you've been listening to Between Two Trains. My co-host, Tom Abbott.
Right.
Robert Pond is who we're bringing on. Tom Abbott.
You're excited about your guest.
I am excited about bringing on Robert. Robert's a great guy, and I can't wait to hear about his company, Perimeter Commercial Real Estate. And we're going to take a short break here in our plush studios at the Chamblee Chamber of Commerce, and we'll be right back after this message.
If you recently got divorced, you may be wondering how to pick up all of the financial pieces. Is it time to make a new budget, new goals, and get a new game plan with your investments? What about the best way to save money on your taxes? Take control of your money future. Go to oxygenfinancial.net to schedule a complimentary meeting today. Go to oxygenfinancial.net to get started right now.
Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, an affiliate of Kestra Investment Services. Oxygen is not affiliated with Kestra.
Are you a Chamblee entrepreneur or business owner? Do you want to support the Chamblee business community? Then come join the Chamblee Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is dedicated to promoting and advocating for the business interests of our diverse community. Through our partnerships with government and community organizations, the Chamber looks to nurture positive business growth. The Chamblee Chamber also offers many different sponsorship and hosting opportunities at our monthly breakfast meetings, which feature business leaders and speakers from around the Atlanta area, and at our larger events, such as the annual State of the City address. Join the Chamber today to open a whole world of networking and advertising opportunities for your business. Learn more at chambleechamber.org.
Okay, welcome back to Between Two Trains, and we are going to bring on Perimeter Commercial Real Estate. I know I said Premier earlier before the break, and they are Premier.
They are Premier. They're doing some cool things in Chamblee.
Cool stuff, especially in the Chamblee area, but this is Perimeter. Man, I don't know why I've got a block on that. Perimeter Commercial Real Estate, and our guest is Robert Pond. Robert, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Perimeter Commercial Real Estate. How long have y'all been in business? You have a couple partners, right?
Yep, 2 partners. We've been in business, I want to say, about 4 years now.
Okay.
We do a pretty wide range of different things. We do real estate investment, office retail, number of different things all throughout the city, as well as the great city of Chamblee. We also do a fair amount of third-party office leasing, management, helping other owners and landlords to lease, to manage, to add value to their property.
All right. So tell us, you got a couple of projects in Chamblee, you said?
Yeah, we do have a couple projects in Chamblee. We've got 2 what we call adaptive reuse projects in the downtown market. Both are historic buildings. One is the building that was formerly the Whaley Machine Company, which operated from the, I want to say, 1960s to about 2015. Family-owned business. The entire time they ended up shutting down the business. We purchased the property for them, and we're in the process of converting that into a
This was like a machine shop?
It was a machine shop.
Were there like environmental stuff you had to deal with, or what was it just equipment that could be moved out?
It was a lot of equipment that needed to be moved out. They did a lot of metal manufacturing. They did munitions during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
They did a lot of automobile parts. Basically anything that had to do with metal manufacturing, they did at some point. So they had about 60, 70 years worth of machines and metal and parts and you name it that was in the building. So it took about 6 months to move everything out. We got it all cleaned out, got the building cleaned up, and have been in the process of renovating it for the past about a year now, and are currently leasing the building up to different office tenants from.
So this is purely just an office play?
It's purely just an office building.
All
That's
right.
correct. And then across the street from that is formerly the Prospect Methodist Church. The building, the dates are a little uncertain as to when exactly it was built. I've heard early 1800s, I've heard late 1800s, but it was one of the original buildings in the in the downtown Chamblee area. It operated as the Methodist Church from the 1800s up to somewhere in the mid-1900s, 1960s, 1970s, and then from there until recently it operated as an antique store.
Well, the Chamblee's doing a history project. In fact, my wife is part of that history project. I don't know if you know about this, but they've got a lot of old pictures. I think my wife said that they have a picture of when it was a church. So you might want to check with the Chamblee History Project about what old documents they might have about your piece of property.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen a few older photos. In fact, the former owner tenant in the building, who ran the antique store, had some photos that we saw. So it's pretty remarkable seeing the structure going back, 100 years, 150 years, and seeing it there today.
Robert, what's the plan for that building? What are you office as well, or what's the use?
We're still
proposed use for
working on
that?
some different ideas. I think we're pursuing a route of doing some type of retail restaurant multi-tenant building. We've done some renovation to the property right now. We're still working on our long-term plan. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening in that little corridor right now with the town center, a lot of the older properties.
I was going to ask you about that. So when you decide to select these properties, was it with the intention because so much is going on in Chamblee, you said, hey, we want to get in before on the ground floor, or they were just opportunities that came along to you? How did you end up picking those properties?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything. Opportunities that came along that were discovered, obviously, have worked in the city a long time, Huntley Hills resident. So, I'm aware of what's going on, definitely believe and wanted to invest back in the city. And then all of the redevelopment happening in the area with the town center, with everything, GM plants, now is a good time to be investing in that area commercially.
No, is it too late? Has the opportunities left, or are there still deals out there to be made in the area with everything you said, the town center and the GM plant and whatnot? We got a beautiful Whole Foods now that's driving a lot of business. Have we missed the boat as investors, or?
I don't know if we've missed the boat. I'm not going to say it's too late. I'll tell you that it's definitely harder to find opportunities now than I think it was even a year ago or 2 years ago, and that's something that I hear consistently across the board from people in commercial real estate. The prices have certainly gone up and have continued.
How do we
to go
balance
up.
that as a community? Some residents think that the community's going to get so expensive that they can't live here anymore. Are we driving up our commercial property values to a point where we're going to price out the people that have lived here for 30 years, or are we pretty much right in line where we need to be?
I don't know. It's hard to say. Real estate, like every other market, has an ebb and a flow. Prices go up. Prices eventually will come back down somewhat. Markets will cycle. So it's really hard to say if we're at a place where the prices are too high, if they're right where they need to be. Again, just a lot of growth in the area. There's a lot of things that have been changing very, very quickly. So, tough to know, but I think kind of over time you'll start to see things stabilize.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned, I think Tom asked about what the tenants you might put in that old church would be, and I think I heard you say something about a restaurant.
That's a possibility. It's in the cards. We've been having discussions with a number of different potential restaurants. To be seen, I think.
Okay, all right.
You're going to have you'll have some great tenants up the street next year with Serta Simmons when they, customers when they open up. They'll be right Serta Simmons World Headquarters going up there, so there'll be 500-600.
Is that what a
employees.
restaurateur is looking for? Just demographics? How many people are in the area? When you're talking to these restaurateurs, what data are you giving them to say this is why you need to come to my place?
I think the secret's out on Chamblee. So I think Chamblee sells itself a lot more now than a few years ago when you were bringing potential restaurant tenants, bringing potential other retail or office tenants into the market and selling them on everything that was happening in the market. But restaurateurs will look at I think a matrix of different factors. They'll look at demographics. They'll look at the attributes of the property. They'll look at what is the parking. They'll look at what is the traffic count, the exposure, things like that. I think that we're definitely seeing across the board, whether it be office tenants, whether it be restaurant tenants, people definitely are starting to look for I think properties that have a certain unique characteristic to them versus something that's kind of just brand new and boring and vanilla. So we've really seen, I think, an explosion in the popularity of adaptive reuse projects, taking old properties, taking old real estate, fixing them up and making them cool again.
And you're even starting to see a little bit of trend like that I think it's called the T3 building at Atlantic Station.
That's correct.
That they're proposing that is going to look like an old building, but they're building it brand new with a lot of wood and everything, just because even the person looking for a new building wants that cool feel to it, not a standard glass tower kind of thing.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting project. They're actually going to do that all timber and all glass construction. So it's really going to have a, kind of a historic vibe, even though it's going to be a brand new building. And, across the board, I think, as the percentage of millennials especially increases within the marketplace, people want something different than they wanted 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And, again, more and more that adaptive reuse, that cool factor is very important in terms of, offering potential real estate to different tenants.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, obviously, you mentioned the properties that you're doing here in the Chamblee market, but y'all are located not in Chamblee, but actually in Smyrna, correct?
Our office is in Smyrna. I wish it was in Chamblee.
Yeah.
It would definitely be much better for my commute.
I understand there's space in the Whaley Machine Shop.
There's a little bit of space left. Yes, we could definitely make room. But no, our office is in Smyrna. It just happens.
So outside of Chamblee, you have some other projects going on around town, or?
Yeah, we do. We focus kind of all over the place. Chamblee, we do some stuff in town Atlanta. We have some properties, project down in Inman Park, and then we have some properties out in the outlying metro area as well. So we'll kind of look and work anywhere where there's opportunities in the Atlanta market.
Great, cool.
All right. So typically at this point in the episode, we like to have a little fun. We like to play some games, and this episode we're going to go back to one of our early games called
Hot or Not.
Hot or Not, yes.
Hot or
so
Not.
Let me explain to you, Robert, since you haven't played this before, what Hot or Not is. We are going to give you a couple of topics, and we just want you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a professional, to tell us, is this something that's hot to do or not so hot to do? And we'll just have some fun with it. So first Hot or Not is a personal 5-year business plan. Is it hot or not to create a 5-year plan?
Oh, I have no idea. Probably not. I think most people don't like to plan things out too much.
So no planning for you. You just fly by the seat of your pants.
Oh, me or
yeah, in
else?
general.
Oh, I don't know.
Not so hot.
I'm going to say not so hot.
Okay. All right. Tom, you have a hot or not for?
Triple net leases on commercial tenants.
Hot or not?
I think hot.
Yeah. Why so?
I think that in a time in the market.
Maybe for our listeners, why don't, before you tell us, you explain what triple net leases are, because they may not even know what that means.
Sure. So commercial leases are oftentimes, not always, handled differently than what you may see in a residential lease.
Yeah, I have some rental properties. It's pretty easy, right? What's the difference?
Sure. Well, it's very different,
Okay.
or I should say it can be very differently.
Okay.
So one of the big differences you'll see in commercial leases a lot of times is some type of net lease structure. And what that means is they actually separate out what they call the base rent and then what are the operating expenses, and they structure those completely differently. So, as an example, if you're going to go and lease an office building or go and lease a retail property, they will say, Van, this is the rental rate, and this portion of the rental rate is the base rental rate, or what you pay us. And then this portion of the rental rate is actually your proportionate share of the taxes and the operating expenses for the property. So basically, they want to capture and separate the return of the profit through the base rent completely separately from what the operating expenses are. And what that means is that if there is an increase or decrease in property expenses, that the landlord's return does not fluctuate with that.
They pass that along to the tenants, basically.
To pass that along to the tenant. So it's
So
very beneficial to the landlord in a time in the market right now where we're seeing a lot of increases in prices.
I was going to ask you, are the tenants all of a sudden saying, oh, wait a second, the value of the properties are going up, taxes are going up, I'm paying more rent.
The taxes are going up, and the costs associated with leases are going up.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Interesting.
So just to reiterate, you said that was a hot thing.
I think it's a hot thing.
Hot thing. All right. I'm going to give you the next one. It's near and dear to my heart because I'm so passionate about this city. Chamblee, hot or not?
Chamblee's hot.
Hot.
No doubt.
No doubt. What makes it so hot?
What makes it hot? It's a great place to be. I think that, generally, Atlanta is a city that's continuing to grow from within. And for a long time, Chamblee was ignored. Neighborhoods like Buckhead and Brookhaven got a lot of love, got a lot of the investment. You've seen a lot of growth in the in-town markets, in the areas like the Highlands and the Old Fourth Ward, East Atlanta, areas like that. But you think about all of the attributes in terms of the proximity to some of the in-town neighborhoods, to the core business centers, the MARTA, all of those factors. So Chamblee is definitely hot. You're seeing a lot of growth, a lot of investment in the market. The Whole Foods Center recently sold, and I think I read that it was one of the highest price per square foot retail center sales that the city's ever seen. So definitely
The city of Chamblee or all of Atlanta?
the city of Metro Atlanta.
Metro Atlanta.
Or I should say Metro Atlanta.
Metro Atlanta. So let's just make sure we got that clear for all our viewers. You're telling me
We're setting records,
we are
baby.
setting records in the Chamblee marketplace.
We are setting records.
All right. So
Hot or not, chef-driven restaurants.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I like
I'll say hot. I will say maybe not soon. We've definitely seen
seems like they're popping up all over
They're
the
all
place.
over the
Are there
place.
that many chefs?
There's a lot of chefs. There's a lot of restaurants. So there's a lot of speculation that we have been oversupplied with restaurants. I want to say every new development you see is anchored with 2 to 3 new chef-driven restaurant concepts. And, so there has definitely been talk of a restaurant bubble. But in the last 5 years, 10 years, we've definitely seen, a growth in that area. So I'd say yes, hot right now. In the next 2 to 3 years, maybe not hot.
But then you also look at like craft breweries. I mean, that is like just exploded all over the country and doesn't seem to be stopping. I mean, every time you turn around, another craft brewery coming somewhere.
As a landlord, which would you rather have? Because it would seem to me a chef-driven restaurant has a little bit more risk in failure. I could be wrong. Would you rather see, if you had a tenant, a chef-driven restaurant or some chain restaurant come in?
You know, it all depends. I think a lot of times the chain restaurants, they don't have the same cool factor. They don't have the same vibe. So, you know, in adaptive reuse in an old cool building in downtown Chamblee, I think something that's chef-driven would definitely be much more appropriate. You know, if you're
Than
out,
a fast food restaurant.
yeah, if you're out on Peachtree Boulevard on a corner, maybe a national chain would be a better fit for that. But it all depends. You know, restaurants do have a high failure rate. I want to say about a 40% failure rate. So it's always you know, prudent to be thoughtful in terms of the tenants and the mix and what's going on in the area in terms of total number of restaurants. You know, how many are already there? You know, how much is it costing you to get these restaurants in your building? So.
Right. All right, one last hot or not. As you know, today is April Fool's Day, and we mentioned this in our first segment. Hot or not, is it cool to do April Fool's jokes? Do you do one on your family members?
Yeah, no.
You don't?
April Fool's is always hot. No.
Always hot.
Oh, yeah,
it's
always hot. Every year.
What, do you do something like on your wife? What do you do?
No. I don't
Don't want to spoil it.
Don't want to spoil. Okay, something later tonight. It's going to happen at the Pond household, right?
It's classified.
There you go.
It's classified.
I could
there
tell
you
you,
go.
but then I'd have to kill you.
Okay, all right. I will tell you, one year I played an April Fool's joke where I made a bunch of water balloons and waited for my wife to come home from work, and she got pelted with water balloons. I know she's going to listen to this and go, "Why did you tell people that?"
I'm surprised you're still.
I might have to
after
cut that out of the.
I am excited that they decided to name the new Chamblee Town Center project the Blee. That was voted on last night. It's
Right.
very, very exciting to hear.
Voted on by the Development Authority to call the town center the Blee,
It's
right?
a name that's near and dear.
I have a
to
feeling that's an April
all of
Fool's
our
joke.
hearts. Yeah.
All right. Well, Robert, thank you so much for coming on the show. Any parting comments about real estate in the area? Or?
No, nothing. I mean, I think it's a great time to be in the business. It's very exciting. It's you know, a lot of exciting things happening, especially in the Chamblee area right now in terms of new development. So it's you know, it's great to be a part of it.
Well, before we go, you know, my co-host Tom Abbott is one of the leaders in the Chamblee Chamber, and we just want to make a couple of announcements about upcoming events. Tom, what's going on with the Chamber in the month of April? We got some exciting events?
In the month of April, we have our State of City address coming up with Mayor Clarkson. You're going to ask me the date, and I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head. I want to say it's
They can find that on
yeah,
the
they can
Chamber
find it on
website?
the Chamber website. So that's coming up in April, and then in May, a couple exciting events coming up. We'll have Ted Jenkins, who's the co-founder of Oxygen Financial.
Oh,
will be
near and dear to
speaking.
my heart.
Yeah, we'll be speaking at one of our breakfast meetings. And we're also going to be doing our business after hours in May at Mercy Care, which is a new facility that just opened here in Chamblee, and we're excited they're going to share their facility with us as
Now,
well.
the State of the City address is something the Chamber puts on every year, and I believe this year it's going to be at the Marriott, correct?
Yeah, it'll be at the Century Center Marriott, or
Century
they
Center
call it the
Marriott.
Atlanta Marriott Century Center, I believe is the title for it.
Okay.
The hotel has just gone through a massive renovation. Looks phenomenal, so we're excited to be there.
Now, can anyone come? Is it free? Do they have to
It's
register?
free to the public. You just need to register. You can register on the Chamblee website.
On the Chamber website?
Chamber website, and be able to attend it for free. We have sponsors. If you're a business owner listening and would like to sponsor, we still have room for some sponsorships.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. And Robert, again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and y'all have a great April Fool's Day, and tune in. You can hear Between Two Trains on iTunes, on SoundCloud. We're also on YouTube. We come out twice a month, on the 1st and the 15th of each month, so stay tuned for our next guests on April 15th, and we should have a hot show. Y'all have a great day. Hi, this is Van with Between Two Trains. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We have a great lineup of future guests coming, so stay tuned. And if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur in the North DeKalb area and are interested in coming on the show, send us an email. We would love to get your story out to the community. send your contact info to betweentwotrains@gmail.com. That's between the number 2 trains@gmail.com.